that's talked about why we step backwards, okay? But I want to make it clear that we don't always step backwards because we don't always have to step backwards, okay? And what we're trying to create is a far foot by stepping backwards and a near foot, the stationary foot, the foot that's carrying the weight. And we don't want to transfer weight back to the far foot. We want to make sure that the weight stays on the near foot. Okay, and I want to talk about a guy named Bob Brown, the Boomer. Okay, he was a great player, offensive lineman, probably, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. The team, I think he played for the Rams and he also played for the Raiders, but I think he was really became the Boomer when he was playing for the Raiders. He was a right tackle in a right-handed stance, okay, and he had a tremendous stagger in his stance, okay. So this was his left foot, and this was his right foot. He was a right tackle. This was his right hand, okay? And this big stagger would allow him, he was already stepped backwards, and it would allow him to trigger and then step forwards with that foot, okay? And he'd roll over this foot, the near foot, okay? He would step with the far foot, trigger and step with the far foot, thrust himself forward and roll over, make his knee go down, over the near foot. Okay, very effective, tremendous player. But the question is, could he pull left? How did he block movement? And could he have played guard and center out of that stance? Now, he probably could have played guard and center at the same time. I mean, the dude was a great player. He used to pad his forearms. They said I heard stories that he would go with padded forearms and bang against the goalposts and make the whole thing shake. And, hey, he was the Boomer, Okay, but that, he already had his backward step, okay? It was the problem is his stance, again, limited him maybe in these, I don't know, I'd have to look at film. What we knew about that technique at the time, okay, was in a staggered stance, 90% of the time you would try to step with your deep foot. You'd use it as a trigger and step with it. The only time you wouldn't step with that far foot would be if the man was over to your left, okay, and you had to step with that foot first. Okay, so let's change and go to a perspective, okay, and this is a lineman. And I'd be standing, here's the line of scrimmage right here, and he's lined up in a left-handed stance, okay, a more normal stance than Bob Brown's stance, okay. And if I was standing here, that foot would be closer to me than that foot, okay. And same thing here with a more parallel stance, okay, and the old school butt up. If I was standing here, I got a near foot and a far foot. Okay, and if you go down and change it here, same thing. So here I am standing, here's the guy in the stance. Don't go by these hands, the hands are too wide. Again, there's a near foot and a far foot. So there's no need really to step backwards to trigger. You've already got a push foot, okay? Now, most of the time we're gonna step with that foot, and sometimes we push in sort of a lead step thing, okay. I know Jim McNally talks about his gallop. He's going to step with that foot first and that foot second, pushing off that foot and gathering on this foot. We skip into it. We call it a cow tip, okay. Gallop for us is something different. But there's no need to step backwards. Now, we do step deep to control the gap and put the man between our feet. And we have a couple of different techniques at angles, okay? We step deep to the gap for pin and pull and trap, obviously. If we're gonna trap somebody, we're gonna step deep, open our hips up. Pin and pull, we wanna step deep and put them between our feet, okay? And we're gonna turn the shoulders and we're gonna step with the near foot. When we wanna keep our shoulders square, we scoot, which is actually stepping into a brace, and then we use another brace to trigger, and I'll talk about footwork some other time, okay? And when we want to keep square shoulders, we cow tip, which is, what this technique is for me, and we want to keep square shoulders going into a red light. So in other words, if I got a guy here in yellow light and I'm going in this direction, I want to try and keep the shoulders square. Okay. So we always step deep. Okay. Sometimes we skip into it. We'll step with the far foot first. Okay. We slide it to us, and the wider that man is, okay, Howard Mudd's old rule, the wider the man is, the deeper we step. Same thing with this or skipping. Okay. And what we want to wind up with in both instances is the big tree, emphasizing the glute muscles for strength, etc., and so on. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that you understand that we don't always step backwards. Okay? To me, this is stepping deep to control the gap. And in a way, it's stepping backwards, but not when in relation to that man. Okay? It's definitely going to step backwards in relation to the line of scrimmage, but to me, it's stepping deep. Okay? All right, that's all I got.